Hi there, folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. We got a big debate Tuesday night. President Trump, Kamala Harris. We've got the sky falling in Washington, D.C. after congressional leaders take a 6-week vacation. Not just leaders, by the way. The entire body of Congress takes 6 weeks off. And now we've got a continuing resolution that they tell us has to be passed by September 30th or else the government will shut down. And guess what? Republicans now attaching the SAVE Act, the act that would mandate that you prove you're a United States citizen before you vote, to it. But there's a little inside scoop to this. I don't believe Republicans are sincere about trying to force the Democrats' hand. I believe this whole SAVE Act is designed to cover up for the Republicans' inability to pass a budget, and the Republicans know that the SAVE Act has no chance of passing. Now, make no mistake, I want it passed. Don't get me wrong. We need the SAVE Act passed. But let's be upfront and honest about what's going on in Washington instead of trying to pull the wool over our eyes, which is exactly what's happening in Washington, D.C. And then City of Dreams, this movie, one of the most important movies of our time, they're squashing it, pulling it from theaters. We're going to talk about that a little bit. But before we start, I want to tell you the debate tomorrow night. What are some of the questions that you would like asked of Kamala Harris? Do you think the moderators will ask the questions that need to be asked? First and foremost, I would say, what do you mean when you say Democrats are the party of freedom, when literally everything the Democrats preach is that the government knows best for you, you do what we say or we punish you? That is not freedom. In fact, what the Democrats are doing, what Kamala Harris is doing, what Joe Biden is doing, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, is the exact opposite of freedom. She needs to be put on the front line for that. And let's see what her response is. You talk about freedom. You're not for freedom. You're about government overreach. Instituting more taxes, by the way, which is something Kamala Harris wants to do. She finally laid out some of her plans. She's going to raise taxes on corporations, raise taxes on the so-called wealthy, any household making over $400,000 a year. You think it's a good idea to be raising taxes on the very people that are responsible for all the jobs in America? I don't. This idea of taxing unrealized gains, paper profits, not a good idea. You're going to be asked about that. What about reparations? And oh, by the way, in this podcast, we'll talk about reparations a little bit and Kamala Harris's support for that. You want to divide a nation? You push reparations. Paying black folks for slavery when those black folks were never slaves, and you're taking money from white folks who never owned slaves. How is this a good idea? All it does is divide America, and I think even those on the left fully understand it is divisive and understand why Kamala Harris is doing it, and she thinks this is a good idea to move down the line from. It most certainly is not. We talked about unrealized gains. I would like to see Kamala Harris be put on notice about her defund the police movement. Okay? We know that she has said over and over again that she wants to defund the police, reimagine policing. Will these moderators, David Muir, Lindsey Davis, will they ask Kamala Harris directly, what do you mean by reimagine policing? Are you still in favor of defunding the police? Are you still in favor of taking cops out of schools, demilitarizing our schools? This after that Georgia school shooting. And she, back in 2020, said we got to demilitarize schools. You still in favor for that? Are we going to put her on notice when it comes to that? My assumption is they will not. We could talk about the fentanyl crisis. She should be asked about that. The open border policies, but a direct question is when you say you want to shut down the border, don't you really mean that you just want to move border crossings from in between ports of entry to ports of entry and using the Border Patrol app as a way to just funnel illegals in through a port of entry so you don't have to say they're illegally crossing? Will they directly ask her these questions? These are issues President Trump needs to ask her about. There's the fracking issues as well. You've only given out a few hundred permits to drill on federal lands under the Harris-Biden administration. President Trump gave out thousands upon thousands of permits to drill on federal lands. One of the reasons why we were energy independent under President Trump. What is your real stance on this? When you say you're not going to shut down fracking, well, maybe you don't shut down fracking, but if you only offer a few permits, that's not going to do us any good. Will she be put on notice for this? These are all questions I want to see during the debate tomorrow night. We shall see if they actually do that. My assumption is they are not going to do that. All right, now I want to get to the continuing resolution and this kick the can down the road mentality again, which is all Washington does. 6 weeks, by the way, 6 weeks of vacation, and they're going to kick the can down the road. But before I get to that, I want to tell you about my friends over at Consumer Advocates, USAnow.com, CAUSAnow.com. I want you to consider shopping with Consumer Advocates USA. This is CAUSAnow.com. This is about being part of a movement. This is part of taking back America. So they've gone through extensive research to come up with the best products, all the household products you will ever need. You don't need to shop at the big box stores. You don't need to be ordering off Amazon and Target and putting money in China's pocket. This is one company that stood out above the rest. All U.S.-made products. A family-owned business. It's been around forever. Products delivered straight to your door, okay? Beats inflation, cost-effective, high-quality products take all the toxins out of these products. It's a buyer's club. If you want to be part of this movement, parallel economy, get with CAUSAnow.com, CAUSAnow.com/grant to become a member, CAUSAnow.com/grant. Fill out the form. Someone will get right back to you and talk to you about being part of a movement that really is about taking back our country and saying no to China and the woke left. All right, with that, folks, let's get the show started.
Uncensored and unapologetic. This is Stenchfield. Here's your host, Grant Stenchfield.
All right, welcome to the program. This continuing resolution, do you know we haven't had a traditional budget? By my calculations, when you vote on appropriations, you make your budget, you pass the budget, and that's done for the fiscal year. Instead of stopgap measures, which we now have learned are called continuing resolutions, which mean we fix it for a few months, then we pass another continuing resolution, then we tell the world the sky's falling, then we tell them when we don't want a government shutdown, then we say, oh, the government's going to shut down if we don't pass this, and then we try to tie things to it, and they use it as political footballs in Washington. It's not the way it should be done. Pass an appropriations bill, fund each agency as necessary, and mind you, I would like to go to what is called zero-based budgeting. So right now, the way Washington operates is each agency starts with their budget from the year before. They figure we need an X percentage increase for the next year, and they say why we need an X percentage increase, and then Washington just funds the increase in budget year after year, claiming that there's inflation and all of these things. So that's not how I want Washington to operate. It's not how I want any government agency to operate, all the way down to your local city hall. I want zero-based budgeting, where every year an agency has to prove to me, if I'm a member of Congress, what budget I need and why. Sometimes it may be an increase. Sometimes there may be a decrease. But you start at zero and work up instead of starting with what your budget was and working up. Zero-based budgeting, it's very important. It's about accountability. It'll never happen in Washington because we haven't had a traditional budget passed since 1997. And I was going to offer you up this. Can anyone out there give me a year when we didn't have a continuing resolution? Did we ever have a year where Congress wasn't going on vacation and then coming back and claiming that, oh, my Lord, everything's faltering and everything's failing, and we got to pass this right away? Have we ever had that year? The answer, of course, is no. We haven't had a year like that, of course, since 1997. So one of the things that they want to do with this continuing resolution, and I'm urging you not to fall for this, is they're tying the SAVE Act to it. Chuck Schumer in the United States Senate says it's a no-go starting right now. We're not going to do that in the United States Senate. They're not going to tie the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act is the bill that would require every voter in a federal election to prove he is a United States citizen. Now, you can do it by going to your local elections office and showing the documents, or you do it on election day and you can prove to somebody at the voting place, show them your passport, and you can vote. So this should be an easy enough fix. You can bring the way I read the bill, if you have a real ID, which is a state license, any kind of what they now call a real ID, along with a birth certificate that shows you were born in the United States, you're good to go. Or you could use a federally issued identification. That would be a military ID, a passport, anything like that. This makes common sense. But do not believe Republicans when they tell you that this, folks, is about holding the Democrats accountable. I believe they're tying the SAVE Act to give them an out. They know the Democrats are not going to go for this. They know they're going to push everything they can to get this continuing resolutions passed. But in the end, they know it's not going to work. So then the Republicans can say to all of you, well, we want the SAVE Act in here and we're demanding that it's here and we're holding the Democrats accountable. Well, really? It's just a way to cover their asses. Nothing is legitimate coming out of Washington. So my good friend, Matt Rosendale, who is an amazing guy up in Washington. We were talking about this continuing resolution and the SAVE Act tied to it. Let me start to play you some of the clips of what he had to say about all this.
This isn't a bluff. It's not even a bad bluff. It's disingenuous and it's dishonest. And the people across Montana, they want me to make good policy. They don't want me to put out messaging bills. And that, at this point, is all attaching the SAVE Act to a continuing resolution is doing. We passed the SAVE Act.
So
I supported it. We sent it up to the Senate. What's it doing? It's collecting dust.
All right, so interesting. He raises a fabulous point. Why is the SAVE Act attached to the continuing resolution? And let me make this clear, too. I am not for a continuing resolution. I don't think it's the way Congress needs to be doing business. I am for appropriations, passing appropriations bills. I think Congress, under control of Mike Johnson, has passed 70% of the appropriations bills. But here we are, 30% not passed. What's going on? Why can't we get back to the regular order of business, pass appropriations, and move them on down the line? So the SAVE Act has already been passed. It's been sent to the Senate. Why isn't the Senate taking it up? Because Chuck Schumer doesn't want to take it up. So then you attach it to this bill, but Chuck Schumer and Johnson, Republican-controlled House of Representatives, is not going to agree with a Democrat-controlled Senate, and we've got a big battle. And then we can blame it on the SAVE Act when in reality it's not the SAVE Act's fault at all. Okay? At all. This is Congressman Rosendale again talking about this.
We have not been in Washington doing our job for 6 weeks. I am ready, willing, and able. An old real estate phrase. Ready, willing, and able to do my job. And they say, oh my gosh, we don't have enough time now to get the appropriation bills passed in order to make sure we have funding in place by September 30, which is what the Budget Act of 1974 calls for. The problem is we should have been doing this January through June 30, which is what it was called for.
So, again, it gets back to why can't we just conduct business as usual? And so here you have congressmen. And by the way, they were on vacation for 6 weeks. This week, they are back from vacation. Now, every congressman, every member of Congress, including my friends, will tell you, we weren't on vacation. We were working with constituents. We were buzzing around our districts, making sure we're talking to people. Fine. It's your job. That's what you're supposed to do. And no one twisted your arm to become a member of Congress. You ran for Congress, knowing full well what the job entails. When you're elected to office, your job never ends, whether that's you're in the president of the United States, whether you're a member of Congress. You're an elected representative of the people. That's not a 9-to-5 job. But this idea that you go home for 6 weeks when we have serious business in Washington to work on, to me is offensive. And then to complain that I'm telling you you're on vacation when you're jetting around going to Republican women's events, going to events where, you know, big time performers are coming through and to raise awareness and going to Trump rallies, that's not working. I do that on a regular basis, not for work, but because I want to move the country in the right direction. Again, Rosendale continued. This guy is so good. I'm so upset he's leaving Congress, by the way. He was going to run for Senate in Montana, then somehow backed out of that. Now you got Sheehy running for Montana, who seems like a decent guy, Sheehy. Need to elect him. The balance of power will run through Montana as he runs against that idiot of a senator from Montana now. Here's Rosendale.
My problem is that the Republicans are trying to attach this to yet another funding mechanism that has not been approved. We're supposed to utilize the appropriations process, and they're using the crutch of a continuing resolution once again to continue funding on policies that I voted against at levels that I voted against. And so they're trying to give themselves cover by attaching this SAVE Act to it. And Grant, you and I both know the Democrats aren't going to vote for this, and the Senate's not going to pass this.
So don't get your hopes up, everybody. So what Matt Rosendale is telling me is the only one who's being honest up there in Washington is that SAVE Act's not going to get passed, and we need it to get passed. Now, the Senate's not going to pass it. We know that, which then gets us back to this election and why it's so important. Yes, electing President Trump to the White House will improve this nation beyond recognition from what it is right now. How do I know that? Because we saw President Trump improve it the last time around. But here's what it won't do. It won't fix many of the problems we have where we need Congress involved, specifically with passing a budget, specifically with issues like that. Without Congress, Senate, and the House, the president is limited to what he can get through. Tax issues, getting relief to families. You can use executive orders for a lot of things, but when it comes to things like that have to go through Congress, spending in particular, issues with our military, we need control, man, and we need control now, and we need it very, very badly. And I'm not convinced that we're going to get it, the House and the Senate. And the only reason I'm not convinced about the House and the Senate is because we don't have a secure election system throughout the country. Many states are, many states aren't. Are we better than 2020? Yes. Are we where we need to be? No. And here's what I also worry about. I worry about the things that Democrat cheaters have figured out that we haven't figured out. I worry about the Democrat cheaters that have figured out other ways to game the system that we have not figured out. It's like dealing with criminals when you deal with Democrats. It's like dealing with criminals. You have to think one step ahead of them in order to stop them in their tracks. That's a fact, man. It really, really is. And sadly, that's what it is criminals. One of those criminal things is government overreach. What I would like to do, folks, I'm going to talk about reparations next and the need to put Kamala Harris on notice when it comes to reparations. But before I do that, folks, my friends over at get21now.com are fabulous. These guys will help you make money in Bitcoin without the wild fluctuations. You sign a deal with them, you can get up to 21% annualized interest paid monthly. This is like money in your mailbox. It's exactly what it is. I'm already getting paid. I love the program. The secret is in the mining. So they're mining Bitcoin at institutionalized levels. They're buying the electricity at record low rates. They've got these giant warehouses with these mining machines. They sell it on the market the next day, and you get paid, okay? You get paid by this, a fixed rate. Get21now.com. 21% interest is what I'm getting. You can get the same deal with them. You just got to get in touch with them and talk to them about it. Get21now.com. If you got some money to put away, invest with them. I love what they're doing. They have lived up to their promises. The name of the company is NFN8, okay? But the website's real easy. Get21now.com, as in 21% interest, annualized. And again, if you want cash flow without the headaches of payroll, without the headaches of paying rent, without the headaches of buying inventory and all this stuff, a straight 21%, which is pretty darn good on your money, get with Get21now.com. That's Get21now.com, up to 21% monthly income, annualized rate of return paid monthly. Love it. Get21now.com. Pay them a visit. All right. Reparations. So Kamala Harris is now in full support, apparently, of reparations. This came to a head in California. California is the birthplace of the idea of reparations, paying black Americans for what ancestors went through when it came to slavery in America, and taking money from white Americans, whether or not they had ancestors that engaged in slavery or not. To me, it's a ridiculous prospect. It doesn't make any sense. This is about buying votes from people. But I will tell you this. This is Kamala Harris being asked by Al Sharpton about reparations. Listen carefully, and then I'm gonna go into what's happening in California here.
But in the area of reparations for descendants of Africans enslaved, if you elected president, would you sign that bill if it came across your desk?
When I am elected president, I will sign that bill.
Oh, she's laughing, and the joke is on all of you. Cackling Kamala, laughing about signing a reparations bill. How does any Democrat look themselves in the mirror and say this is a good idea, this is fair, this is just? Stealing money from one group of people, giving it to another that doesn't deserve it. To me, it is the quintessential height of divisive politics, literally to stick it to one group to reward another. And then all you do is create anger towards each other. The black folks are going to be angry at me. Stinchfield screaming and yelling. He doesn't want to pay reparations, but why would I? I don't know if I had ancestors that owned slaves. I'm from up north. I don't think I did. I don't think I have relatives in the South. But even if I did, I don't want to pay reparations. It wasn't me. And by the way, my name's Grant, okay? I thought that was going to be trouble when I moved to Texas, a slave state, that my name was Grant. And I had families that marched with Grant during the Civil War. And so, you know, should I be paying for people's family members who were slaves? No, I shouldn't be. And they know that. So this comes up in California. Now, here's how I know reparations are a very bad idea. Governor Gavin Newsom wants to be president of the United States. Make no mistake about that. He wants to be president of the United States so bad, he's now vetoing bills you never thought in a million years Gavin Newsom would veto. So the most recent is this idea that California was going to pay up to $150,000 of down payment assistance to illegal aliens as well as American citizens in California. But illegal aliens were going to be able to be part of this American Dream, California Dream program. Why would we be giving illegal aliens $150,000 for a house? We could go through of why this bill's a bad idea, but talk about divisive, taking from the taxpayers of California and giving it to people that shouldn't be here. Gavin Newsom vetoes that bill. He doesn't sign it. This just happened over the weekend. Now, you would have thought he'd be all over a bill like that, but this is proof he wants to run for president of the United States, and he knows this is not going to be popular with the large majority of Americans. How else do I know he wants to run for president of the United States? in Sacramento, they pass a reparations bill through the House and Senate. They send a reparations bill. Well, we're ready to. Let me say this. They pass it through the Senate. It gets to the House. They have the votes for it. Gavin Newsom calls the Black Caucus and says, scuttle the bill. I don't want it voted on. I don't want it on my desk. I don't want to have to be forced to sign it because it's a bad bill, and he knows that he's not gonna be able to escape that when he runs for president. Which is why I also think he wants Kamala to lose, so he's set up in 4 years from now to run. So do you know what they do in the California State Assembly? They scuttle the bill for Gavin Newsom. They've got the votes to pass it, but they scuttle it. Well, our buddy Bill Asaley, who I've interviewed on the Real America's Voice show on numerous occasions, calls their bluff and wants it called for a vote, wants to put them on record and force Newsom to veto the bill. Watch what happens when he does this. They shut his ass down so fast, they won't even recognize him.
Now move to take up AB 1836 by Senator Barkan.
Assembly Bill 1836 by Senator Barkan, regulate the intellectual property.
Respectfully ask your honor.
Thank you, Senator Barkan.
Now watch.
Mr. Bellamy, you are recognized. Mr. Bellamy, you are recognized. You sacrificed that right earlier tonight. Mr. Gallagher, you are recognized. Your time is ticking. You are out of order. Mr. Gallagher, your time is ticking away. You're now down to 15 seconds, Mr. Gallagher. Do you have testimony, Mr. Gallagher?
Mr. Speaker, I do.
It's not going to shut me up. To shut $500,000.
Thank you, Mr. Gallagher. Seeing and hearing no further debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voting desire to vote. All those voting desire to vote. All those voting desire to vote.
What they did to Bill Asaley was not recognize him as he's trying to call for a vote on the reparations bill. They literally shut him down. Now, mind you, the clock is running down here. So they want to pass over this bill because I got a whole slew of bills to pass. To the point of the California State Assembly went so far as to make a rule change to make debate on the bills last not a minute, not 30 seconds, but 15 seconds. That was all, and not 15 seconds from every member of the state assembly. 15 seconds for entire debate. They wanted to whisk these bills through, get them passed because they have a supermajority control in the California State Assembly, and instead they shut Bill Asaley down on getting him to force this vote. To me, it's an absolute travesty. And bullcorn is what it is. Absolute bullcorn. Folks, while I got you here, we're going to talk about Hamas next. They released these hostage videos, which are just absolutely horrible. It's propaganda video. I'm going to play it for you because I want you to see what we're dealing with Hamas, as well as where those hostages were killed last week. Underground tunnels in a child's bedroom. Okay, these animals. But before we get to that, folks, my friends over at the Wellness Company, you know them, twc.health/Grant. Are you ready for an emergency? Are you prepared? I would assume you've got food, water, power supply, ammunition, if you're like me and you take seriously about protecting your family. But the question then becomes, do you have prescription medications like this kit? 8 of the most popular needed medications, including ivermectin, straight to your door, thanks to the Wellness Company. twc.health/Grant. Use promo code GRANT for 10% off. These medications are life-saving medications. You have antivirals, antiparasitics, antibacterials that will be sent to your door. God forbid, we know there's drug shortages going on, but God forbid the drugstores close down, whether it's a natural disaster or something worse. If they do, you are ready for anything. This has to be part of your emergency preparedness plan. If you want to be a good parent, a good spouse, and be ready for anything, you got to have prescription medications on hand. There's a guidebook in here on how to use them all. So go to twc.health/Grant, twc.health/Grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off, and you will not regret it. All right, folks. Now we move on to Hamas. Did you see this video, by the way? This is where the underground tunnels were, where the hostages that were killed found. You know, 6 hostages, including Hirsch Goldberg, Poland, who American citizen was killed. I'm going to play you his propaganda video here in a moment. But this, folks, is a child's room. There's cartoons on the wall, stuffed animals. The tunnels go below the kids' room, okay? Down into the tunnels, which amounts to execution chambers. That's what it is. It's an execution chamber underneath Disney cartoons. These people are animals. These people are disgusting creatures. And yet they want Benjamin Netanyahu to make a deal with them? How do you make a deal with someone who's making execution chambers underneath a child's bedroom, using children as human shields? This is an IDF soldier explaining what we were just looking at.
As you can see, this tunnel was hidden in a child's bedroom, a place where a child should be safe, and not used as a human shield for Hamas. This is exactly what Hamas does. They hide behind civilian population, putting them at risk. From this tunnel, we rescued the bodies of 6 Israeli hostages.
So 6 Israeli hostages rescued, but the bodies rescued, right? Not them rescued, but the bodies rescued. And let's make that clear. They killed those hostages. We are now learning that Hamas has been told when IDF starts to move in, get closer to where the hostages are, to simply execute the hostages. Lord knows what they've been put through leading up to that. This is Hirsch, the American citizen. I'm going to play this. I don't like doing it because it is propaganda video. Hamas wants you to see it, but I'm playing it for another reason. I want you to know that it's propaganda. And I want you to see and look in Hirsch Goldberg Poland's eyes to know what he was put through. Thanks because of the weakness of Joe Biden and the world not putting the pressure on Hamas to return these hostages and putting pressure on Israel to engage in a ceasefire that will only be broken by Hamas.
Mama, Dada, Libby, and Orly, I love you. I miss you, and I'm thinking about you every single day. I know you're doing everything you can and that you're out in the streets trying to bring me home now. I need you to stay strong for me, keep on fighting, and hopefully I believe I'll be home soon. Don't stop. I love you.
Well, he wasn't home soon. Okay? He wasn't home soon. He was killed because they moved in on him. Now, what do you do if you were ever taken hostage in this situation? I've talked to members of our military. I've talked to Navy SEALs. I've talked to hostage, or I should say military interrogators who interrogate terrorists like this. And they all tell me one thing. One, it depends on who you are. If you are a soldier, a high-ranking officer, and you have intimate details about battle plans, about where American troops are, you cannot give that information up. You've got to sacrifice your life, which is as hard as that is to avoid the torture. If you can do it at all costs, you've got to. If it's not about life-saving information, if it's about filming a hostage video like this, you've got to give them something, but you can't give them everything. You've got to let the hostage taker believe that he can get a little bit from you, or let him believe they can get a little more than they think from you. But you can't let them believe you'll get everything from them. So it's a fine line you walk as you're asked to spew lies and nonsense, as Hirsch Goldberg was.
I'm asking you, Mr. President Joe Biden and Anthony Blinken and all my fellow American citizens to do everything you can to stop the war, stop this madness, and to bring me home now.
Well, look, Benjamin Netanyahu's doing everything to bring them home. They're hunting them down. But Hamas, again, every day there's a new attack someplace. And oftentimes terrorist attacks inside of Israel, one of the most tolerant, by the way, countries in the world. And so these terrorists consistently attack Israelis inside Israel. And yet you see a video like this calling out Joe Biden, do everything you can. Well, if I'm Hamas, I'm looking at Joe Biden, to me, as an absolute hero.
I turned 23 4 days before I was kidnapped at the party in Re'im Forest on the 7th of October. Since I arrived in Gaza, I've survived with almost no medical care, little food, and little water. I can't remember the last time I saw the sun or took a breath of fresh air. And worst of all is my own country, Israel, has been trying to bomb me nonstop. And worst of all is my own country, Israel, has been trying to bomb me nonstop so they don't have to take responsibility and make a deal for their mistake and for leaving me behind.
Now, do you think he believes that? Of course not. Do you believe that? I would hope not. There will be some idiot lunatics on the left that will think, oh, this is a legitimate video, but this is exactly what it is, a hostage video. And one of the other reasons why I played it is Hirsch's parents agreed to the release of it. And again, it's important to show you what they will put hostages through. And again, they put them through some bad stuff. And in many respects, Hirsch, now the other hostages, are free. And I'm sure the pain has stopped because they're dead. I don't take a lot of solace in saying that, but I would hope if you're the families, you take some solace in the fact that they're on their way to a better place, because I can only imagine what life must have been like under Hamas's rule. Well, Dinesh D'Souza did an interview with a former jihadist. And this former jihadist explained what these jihadists want and their goals. And it was fascinating. So I found it on social media. I'll play you a little bit of it.
What is the fundamentalist and jihadi agenda for America?
The future of America has to be Muslim.
Well, that is a simple answer that goes a little bit further. And I will play some of that for you here in just a minute. But before I do that, I want to tell you about my friends over at Energized Health. I hope you see the difference in me, guys. My skin is cleaner. My muscles, I've not lost any muscle mass. I've always been very strong. I work out hard. I practice good fitness. But I needed to tighten it all up, man. And I needed to get healthy. And I found Energized Health. I've lost 15 pounds in 5 weeks. I've steadied that out. I'm getting hydrated at a cellular level. I have more energy than I ever had in my life. I'm 55 years old. I feel better than I've ever felt in my life. And this is not an understatement. Yes, Energized Health is a sponsor, but I only take sponsors on that I believe in. And the reason I can tell you I believe in Energized Health now is because I'm living proof of their program and how quickly it works. So if you feel like you got to get in shape, whether you need to lose 400 pounds or you need to lose 40 pounds or you need to lose 4 to 5 pounds, Energized Health is a total body solution, mind, body, soul, getting hydrated at a cellular level. And the science behind that is phenomenal, man. And really, that's what I want you to talk to them about, is this intercellular hydration that to me has transformed my body and my life in just a few short weeks. EnergizedHealth.com/Grant. Pay them a visit, fill out the form. They will get right back to you and get on the program that I'm on that is literally changing my life. The workouts aren't crazy. There's a little bit of a workout, but it's not crazy painful workouts. I'm eating most of the same things that I've always eaten and always loved. And I'm getting hydrated. And they give you steps of the way. Coaching, recipes, an app, motivational videos, one-on-one personalized service. EnergizedHealth.com/Grant. Go there today. I promise you. Take your life back. Go to EnergizedHealth.com. All right. Moving on, I want to continue to play some of this former jihadist.
When I was an extremist, Islamist, fundamentalist, I would only vote left.
Why is that?
I saw them as very stupid. I would fear the conservatives because they come with principle. That's not someone they can brainwash. But the left I know they have no values and no principles to begin with.
Well, he's spot on about that. The left have no values and principles. They'll do or say whatever they can do to get elected. We know they lie, cheat, and steal. And so now we have what I believe to be pro-jihadists inside the United States Congress. I don't know how else you explain what someone like Ilhan Omar really is, other than a pro-jihadist. So this is, again, this pro-Islamic extremist or former Islamic extremist talking about that.
Islamic extremists are against gays and homosexuals and transgenders, but they want the left to go and get busy with that. And Omar, she's fighting for abortion rights. My body, my choice. Yes, go do that. Go do it. But would she have an abortion? Never. Would she kill a Muslim in her stomach? Never.
So that's interesting what he's saying about abortion. So Ilhan Omar, a radical leftist, would she ever abort a baby in her womb? According to that former jihadist, not a chance. Which this goes to the hypocrisy and what they're willing to do, by the way. Could you imagine if I sit here and stand here and fight for pro-life values and pro-life rights, but then tell my girlfriend or wife to have an abortion? I mean, I wouldn't. One, first off, I'm snipped now and I'm too old to be having kids. But if I was younger and I was doing those things and then push someone to an abortion, what a hypocrite I would be. Can you imagine Ilhan Omar pushing people towards abortions? You know, they had those abortion trucks outside the DNC. I'm sure Ilhan Omar probably paid a visit, shake everybody's hand. She pushes people there, but would never use it herself. Would she ever go clean and be honest about not using it herself? I'm not sure that she would. I really am not. I'm not sure she would ever be honest about it. But this is what you get from Democrats. And when you think about what jihadists want, they want America to be totally Muslim. They want the world to be totally Muslim. They are not going to stop their jihadist ways, this what they call a holy war, which there's nothing holy about it. Holy war on society, and make no mistake about this either, folks. America is the greatest enemy, not Israel. Israel's number 2. America's number 1 on their list. All right. City of Dreams. Have you heard about this movie? The City of Dreams movie is all about slave labor in the United States. Do you know many of these fashion houses and fashion manufacturers have been busted using slave labor? American high-end fashion designers and design labels. Where do you think this labor is coming from? Of course, it's coming from south of the border. Open border policies have exploded the trade of slave labor. Not to mention sex slave labor, but this is just factory worker labor. So now City of Dreams comes out. It's a great movie. It was in 775 theaters opening week. It's been out for about 2.5 weeks now. They've removed it from 2/3 of the theaters. And I think this is Hollywood putting the pressure on, even though you have some big-time stars coming out in support of this movie.
Hi, I'm Tony Robbins. I'm one of the executive producers of City of Dreams.
I've been making films for a long time, and every now and then you come across a film that is actually truly important.
I think this is one of the most important movies of our time.
That exposes in no uncertain terms the harsh, brutal, and devastating reality for numerous innocent victims of human trafficking right here in the United States.
This incredible story moves me deeply.
It's a shocking story about a young boy who's trafficked across the border.
The dreams turn into a nightmare, and they end up in a sweatshop.
He fought back against his captors, freeing himself and others.
So not all of those stars are big-time conservatives. You had Sheen in there. He's not a conservative. So people with common sense watch this movie and say, you know what? We need to see this. Well, I can tell you that I believe this is censorship at play. And I want to play for you a clip that I did, a segment I did on Real America's Voice, where I interview one of the producers of this movie, a financier named John Devaney, who has put millions of dollars into this movie. And he's disheartened by the fact that it's being taken out of movie theaters because the more you censor this, the more you aid and abet the trafficker. So let me play you this clip. Well, you know what? I'm going to do that. But first, folks, before I play you the clip, it's worth me telling you about Patriot Mobile. I have a Patriot Mobile phone, patriotmobile.com/Grant. Use the promo code Grant for a free first month service. This is about being part of a team, about being part of a movement that is taking the fight to the woke left. The big three cell phone companies don't believe in the things we do. They got DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion policies going. But more than that, Patriot Mobile is 100% U.S.-based customer service. You can have two lines, two different networks, one phone. If you like the network you're on, you can keep that network on your Patriot Mobile phone, but you know your money is going to people you can trust, not left-wing lunatics. So you're not going to sacrifice service. I promise you. And if you are not happy, forget about the guarantee that Patriot Mobile has, which is a fabulous one. I urge you to ask them about it. You email me and say, oh, Grant, I'm so upset with Patriot Mobile. All right? And I'll talk to you about it. Nobody's going to do that because it's great. So here's what I want you to do. Go to patriotmobile.com/Grant. Use the promo code Grant for a free first month service. Make you a deal to switch to. Talk to them about that. Or just call them at 972-PATRIOT. 972-PATRIOT. Use that promo code Grant, and when you get in touch with them, you tell them that Grant Stinchfield sent you. All right, very, very important. This is about a parallel economy, folks. Everything I push here is about doing better for yourself, and not just the company I'm endorsing. It's about a total partnership between us, Stinchfield's Army, and them. All right, with that, let me play for you this segment on Real America's Voice about City of Dreams. Welcome back, everyone. I'm sad to tell you that slave labor in America is very real. So is censorship. One of the most important films of this year, called City of Dreams, highlights slave labor, the problems in America that it poses, what it does to these children. Well, it's being removed from movie theaters. It's only been open for 2 weeks. It started in 775 theaters. Now this very important film is now down to 225 theaters. I want to know what the heck is going on with this, because this film, the awareness that it raises, is crucial to saving the children. Here's a piece of that film.
Come with me. Come with me, cabrón. Look at me. Look at me. I'm this close to becoming a manager. So I don't care if you're sick, stupid, or your machine blows up. You mess with me again, eh? And I'm gonna scramble your finger away.
I want to be very clear about this. Removing this movie from so many theaters protects the traffickers, because it is all about awareness to stop this in its tracks from happening. And oh, by the way, there's some conservatives behind this. Conservatives seem to be the ones mostly talking about these kinds of issues, made possible by a Biden-Harris administration with open borders. Maybe because the ad includes a guy like this, they don't like it, Donald Trump.
You wouldn't believe that, but trafficking is probably worse today than at any time in history.
Just modern-day slavery in our country.
This is gonna tickle a little.
Your son?
Yes. They're late for school night, no?
Folks, you need to go see this movie. And I think you're going to cry after watching it. Because what it portrays is really horrific, and to think it happens in America is unreal. Well, joining me now is one of the producers and financiers of the movie, City of Dreams. John Devaney is with us. He's also an internationally recognized bond trader, and it's so great to have you on the program, John. Thank you for coming on tonight.
Absolutely, Grant. I'm so happy to be here tonight with you.
John, I can't believe that so many theaters are dropping this movie. I believe something nefarious is going on. What do you think's happening here?
Yeah, we've got such an incredible group of people that came together to bring this movie to the world. And there really isn't anything more important than protecting and saving our children. And as you mentioned a minute ago, there's just an explosion of child trafficking and child exploitation from the labor side, as well as sexual trafficking. It's got to be 5 or 10 times worse. It's caused by a lot of the flawed border policies. A very large wave, as we know, of migrants came across the border. Many of them were welcomed into our country. The traffickers down in some very poor countries like Guatemala, they pitched the parents on that the kids could have a better life in the U.S. and they were charging $3,000 to $5,000. They brought them in Suburbans to the border, 12 at a time. Unfortunately, they were gaming the system, and that many of these children were welcomed in. There was, as we remember, in 21, 22, and 23, there were tent cities of all these children, and unfortunately, they were pushed out to sponsors with almost no vetting. There's a lot of whistleblower reports that Hannah Dreier had reported on in the New York Times. By the way, she's done an amazing job reporting on this issue, and I'm so surprised that more newspapers and TV shows aren't reporting on this issue.
Well,
she's saying that
John,
bad guys on one side had given them to bad guys on the other side, and there's 20 kids in one house, and vans are picking them up and cleaning pig slaughterhouses, and they're not in school, okay? And I heard about how bad the problem was, and I said, I'm going to support this movie and amplify it to the world. So, yes, that we were cut in theaters down to 225, and we're just heartbroken.
I'm sure you are. Now, I'm going to tell you why the mainstream media won't cover this. Is because it highlights the consequences of an open border policy that literally incentivizes traffickers to come here and put these kids at risk. So they can't expose that. They don't want to expose that. And then the idea of Hollywood, after Sound of Freedom making all kinds of money and all of these other conservative films making money, I think Hollywood pulls its strings with these theaters. You know, they have such power over these big, giant theater companies.
Oh, that's
I
where
wouldn't
they
be
get all
surprised
their
if
business
they
from.
were behind some of this.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. You know, I decided to speak up on this film, and you know, I think what America needs right now is a film studio that can make films that matter. I think that there's a big cross section of Americans out there right now that they care about others, okay, and they would like to see films like this that have purpose and meaning. And that's what I did. I decided I'm going to put some resources behind this. I've invested about $30 million in 2 films right now. I intend to produce films that have purpose and meaning. And this is one of our films right now. And
Look, this is the reason why I bring you on the program, John Devaney, because it's important that we support filmmakers, producers, financiers like yourself that are raising awareness. Hollywood's not going to do it. I'm going to play one more clip from the movie because I want to get it in, so I have time, and then I'll get a quick comment from you on the other side. Roll cut 4 for me.
You crush it.
I know there's more of them in there.
Well, fake passport isn't going to cut it.
Yes, sir.
These people have no criminal history whatsoever.
Kind of busy shin. The busy kind.
We've got evidence that they're harboring illegals.
Plus for warrant, denied.
Copy that.
I'd quit poking around. Catch my drift?
John Devaney, if you can, for me in about 30 seconds, what's the message that you want people to get from this, and what do you want them to take away?
yeah, really, I mean, this issue isn't really something that's about the left or the right or black and white or Latino, honestly. Like, if I could beg a lot of the politicians out there to focus on this issue, and please, we would ask that the censorship is limited. We had found out that the posts of Sylvester Stallone and Tony Robbins and Mira Sorvino, Mike Tyson, they only got 5 to 20% of the views on Instagram and Facebook. And so the shadow banning is going on right now with our film. And we wrote them a letter and asked them to please correct it. And I invited them to join us. Mark Zuckerberg, for God's sakes, I mean, please help protect and save these kids. There's 300,000-400,000 of them. Nobody's checking on them like the foster system requires a monthly check, okay? There's no checking system whatsoever.
Well,
these children disappeared into our country, and they're unaccompanied minors without a parent or an uncle or anything. It's awful.
We know that the Biden administration, under Kamala Harris as well, has lost tens of thousands of minors coming across the southern border. And like Mike Tyson, like Tony Robbins, Like Sylvester Stallone, I posted about City of Dreams as well. And I got probably a fifth of the normal likes that I get, which means the shadow banning is very real on this
it's
movie.
It's very
because
real.
they don't want to call attention to the problem. It sure is. John Devaney, I appreciate you coming in. We're not going to shadow ban you ever. You come on anytime you want. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you, Grant. You're a good man. You're a good man. And thank you for fighting for us. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate John Devaney, and he is a good guy. I mean, that guy, very, very successful bond trader. If you don't know who he is, you ought to Google him. World famous in that industry. And he's really putting his money where his mouth is. Offered up a lot of money to these movies and others. I believe the company's Manor House Films. And very impressed by what they're doing there. And I would urge you, go make it a point to see this film, City of Dreams. Go do it today. That's going to do it for us, folks. Thank you so much for watching. It has been an absolute pleasure. We'll see you on the Real America's Voice show tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time. I want to go through more of what should we expect from the big debate tomorrow on the show tonight. Plus a new report about the Afghanistan debacle of a withdrawal and a graveyard from the wall. Which is Ben Bergquam's, what he found in along the border, and the wall graveyard. Holy macaroni. You got to see this. That's tonight on Real America's Voice. Live report from Ben Bergquam, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Please check it out, folks. All right. That is going to do it for us. I so appreciate you watching. It's been a great pleasure. Stinchfield's Army rolls because of you. We'll see you tonight. Thanks, folks.